The Middle East is a region defined by ancient history, deep faith, and immense wealth. At its center lies the Persian Gulf, separating two powerful blocs, Iran and the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC. Iran, with its Persian heritage and Shia identity, faces off against the predominantly Sunni Arab monarchies of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman. This rivalry is not just a neighborly dispute. It's a complex power struggle with global consequences. The United States, as the dominant external power, has long provided security guarantees to the Gulf states in exchange for energy stability and strategic cooperation. For the Gulf, the US presence is a shield against Iran. For Iran, it's a source of insecurity and foreign interference. This triangular relationship, Iran, the Gulf Arabs, and the USA, remains volatile. Ongoing shadow conflicts, especially between Iran and Israel, draw the US deeper into the region's dilemmas. The Gulf states, caught between proximity to Iran and alliance with the US, must make choices that shape the region's future. Their decisions, rooted in history, religion, and survival, have far-reaching consequences. This is the real story of a region on edge. Understanding these dynamics is key to understanding the modern Middle East. The Iran-Arab rivalry stretches back centuries, rooted in empire identity and conquest. The Persian Empire's legacy endures in Iran's culture and pride, even after the Arab conquest brought Islam and reshaped the region. This historical divide fuels modern suspicion. Arabs see Iran as a non-Arab power with its own agenda, while Iranians cherish their ancient heritage. In the 20th century, the Shah's Iran was a regional powerhouse, often clashing with Arab nationalism and asserting control over disputed Gulf islands. The 1979 Iranian Revolution transformed the rivalry, replacing monarchy with a revolutionary Islamic republic determined to export its ideology. Ayatollah Khomeini's calls to overthrow Gulf monarchies turned old competition into existential threat. The Gulf rulers saw Iran's revolution as a direct challenge to their legitimacy and survival. This set the stage for decades of hostility and competition for regional dominance. The rivalry is not just about history, it shapes every political calculation in the Gulf today. Ancient memories and modern ambitions collide, fueling a conflict that endures. The past is never far from the present in the Gulf. Religion lies at the heart of the Iran-Gulf rivalry, deepening the divide. The Sunni-Shia split, born from a centuries-old dispute over succession, now drives regional geopolitics. Iran, as the leading Shia power, sees itself as protector of Shia communities across the Middle East. The Gulf states, led by Sunni Saudi Arabia, view this as a threat to their authority and stability. Iran's support for Shia groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis alarms the Gulf, who fear a Shia crescent of Iranian influence. In response, Gulf states emphasize their Sunni identity and position themselves as defenders against Iranian expansion. Sectarian narratives fuel conflicts in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, turning political struggles into religious battles. For smaller Gulf states with significant Shia populations, the fear of Iranian-backed unrest is ever present. This sectarian competition drives them to seek security guarantees from external powers like the US. The Sunni-Shia divide is both a tool and a trap, making compromise elusive and conflict persistent. Oil is the lifeblood of the Gulf, driving both prosperity and rivalry. The Gulf states and Iran are major oil producers, their fortunes tied to global energy markets. Control over oil production and transport is a matter of survival and power. Saudi Arabia leads OPEC, often clashing with Iran over quotas and pricing. Iran, under sanctions, pushes for higher prices, fueling constant tension within OPEC. The Strait of Hormuz, controlled in part by Iran, is the world's most critical oil choke point. Threats to close the strait send shockwaves through global markets and terrify the Gulf states. Lacking naval power, the Gulf relies on the US Navy to keep oil flowing and economies stable. Economic competition over oil deepens the security dilemma and cements the Gulf's dependence on American protection. In the Gulf, oil and security are inseparable, and both are sources of enduring mistrust. The Gulf's alliance with the United States is built on a simple bargain: oil for security. The US maintains major military bases across the Gulf, deterring Iran and reassuring Gulf rulers. American power levels the playing field, offsetting Iran's size and military reach. Yet reliance on the US brings its own risks, perceptions of dependence and vulnerability to shifting American priorities. Recent US signals of reduced commitment have pushed Gulf states to consider more independent policies and even limited outreach to Iran. Still, the American security umbrella remains essential to Gulf survival. The partnership is pragmatic, but not without anxiety. The Gulf's future may depend on how long this bargain holds. The shadow war between Iran and Israel shapes the region's security landscape. Covert operations, cyber attacks and proxy conflicts keep the region on edge. The US, as Israel's closest ally, is inevitably drawn into these confrontations. Any escalation risks a wider war, with the Gulf states caught in the crossfire. The Abraham Accords brought open Gulf-Israel cooperation, united by shared fears of Iran. Yet, the Gulf remains vulnerable. Missile attacks on oil facilities are stark reminders of their exposure. The Gulf states support anti-Iran coalitions, but tread carefully, knowing they are on the front line. The shadow war could spill over at any moment, threatening their stability. In this volatile triangle, caution and calculation are the order of the day. The Gulf's alignment with Washington is a calculated choice rooted in security, economics and survival. The Gulf monarchies see Iran's ideology proxies and nuclear ambitions as existential threats. Only US military power is seen as a credible deterrent. Decades of arms purchases and military integration lock the Gulf states into the American security system. While China is a major oil buyer, the US underpins the global financial system and secures maritime trade. Political interests align. Both the Gulf and the US seek to preserve the regional status quo against Iran's revisionism. Alienating Washington would risk both security and economic stability. Despite occasional disagreements, the Gulf's core interests remain tied to the US. In any US-Iran confrontation, the Gulf's choice is clear. Despite their US alignment, Gulf states walk a diplomatic tightrope with Iran. Geography makes outright hostility too risky. War would be catastrophic. The Gulf pursues a dual-track approach, strong US ties but open channels with Tehran. Recent years have seen Saudi Arabia and the UAE restore diplomatic relations with Iran, seeking to manage tensions. These moves don't end the rivalry but aim to reduce the risk of conflict. Qatar and Oman have long balanced relations, acting as mediators and maintaining pragmatic ties with Iran. The Gulf is not a monolith. Each state calculates its own risks and opportunities. The era of blind reliance on the US is fading. Gulf states are diversifying partners and strategies. Engagement with China and Russia and dialogue with Iran reflect a new diplomatic reality. Survival now depends on both powerful friends and deft diplomacy. In the Gulf, flexibility is as vital as strength. The Gulf-Iran relationship is a defining, enduring feature of the Middle East. Ancient rivalries, religious divides, and economic competition fuel deep mistrust. The Gulf's security dilemma drives its alliance with the US, but proximity to Iran demands caution. Recent diplomatic overtures show a desire to manage, not resolve, the rivalry. The Gulf's future will be shaped by this balance: reliance on American power tempered by pragmatic engagement with Iran. Mistrust remains, but necessity forces dialogue. In the end, survival in the Gulf depends on navigating the space between confrontation and coexistence. The story of the Gulf is one of conflict, calculation, and the constant search for stability.